Hello everybody, welcome to Dakman Productions and welcome to Conahey Rail and welcome to Conahey Rail Grain Yard Facility under construction weekend number 2. I was anticipating this project only to be in one weekend and that didn't happen. I should have called this the Snowball Project because that's basically what happened. But anyway, for those who are wondering, my grain yard here, I do a lot of grain yard switching. I call it Farmingdale Junction, that is. And the original plan was to simply add 3 switches. That's it. 3 switches. Count it. 1, 2, 3. Shouldn't have been no more than a couple hours. But no, I had to rewire my yard because I didn't like the way I did it. Which I'm glad I did, because the way I did originally left gaps, but the gaps are all closed up now. I also shortened the way I made the yard, the switches by 6 inches, so I was able to add 6 inches of track. And then I had to, as you saw my last video, I straightened out the one siding that goes behind the silo. So in order to do that, I had to install new track, but I didn't have any track, so I stole it from Main 1 because I was short on supplies. The mail was holding me up. It was a disaster. And then, I planned out what switches I was going to use, and then, your plans never go the way you think they're going to go. So you plan on left-hand switches, and now you're using rights instead because you don't like the way it came out. And then where you're using rights, you're hoping you're going to use a left. But at any rate, so I decided to, in my video, I said I didn't want this 027 switch anymore, but that was actually an 072 switch that was in here. And I since replaced it with an 0100. So there was a right-hand switch that I used that I wasn't counting on using. Then that throws the geometry off of how the track comes into the yard off of mainline number 2. So originally mainline number 2 had a left-hand switch, but if I did that, it would have made a tight S-curve, which I didn't want to happen. So I replaced that with a right-hand switch as well. Now I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. I just used 2 right-hand switches I wasn't planning on using. So now I have a whole bunch of lefts and I need more rights. I thought about that after, placing my orders and stuff. And I went online to grab another right-hand switch. But somehow it got lost in the mail. Or they're saying it was actually shipped and it wasn't. I don't know. It's a big mess with this mail. So weekend number 2, I still don't have all the switches that I ordered. I'm still 1 switch short. However, I did get more pigtails in to continue on. I did get straight track in, so that's a plus. And originally, I was planning on coming off this yard here. Let me show you guys real quick. With a left-hand switch, but I'm nixing that. I don't want to come into the, because as you can see, there's not a whole lot of room for a lot of track. So instead, I'm going to come into the yard with a right-hand switch, which I don't have because I'm already short 1. So that's how I'm going to come into the yard that way, because I can get a lot more leadway. But at any rate, let me get started on this and I'll show you guys better what I'm talking about. But I have enough track to go ahead and install the crossovers at least. I won't be able to finish it because I'm probably going to need 2 rights, but we'll see how this works out. I definitely am short on 1 right-hand switch for my reefer warehouse or refrigerated warehouse, so that will not be included in this weekend number 2 video. So now it looks like there's going to be a weekend number 3 video. Yay! How the project just keeps going. Now I understand why it takes states 10 years just to make 5 miles of road. But at any rate. Alright, so we'll get back to you guys and we get to work, and I'll show you progress as I go along. Okay, so weekend number 2 again, and we're finally back to where we originally were before I decided to rewire and redesign. Or it doesn't look like I did much as far as redesigning, but trust me, as you've seen in the videos that I explained, even moving something 6 inches has a huge snowball or domino effect of what you have to do. And even going from a right hand switch to a left hand instead, what it does to the design and the geometry of everything. So finally, weekend number 2, we are back to where we started from. Well, all I wanted to do was add 3 simple switches. So anyway, I got these 2 switches back in, which were already here originally. I just wanted to add another 2 so I can switch in both directions. But as you can see, once again, I decided to move the switches from the original location, because you can see where it actually crossed over here. So I moved these back probably an additional another 6 inches. Alright, so I moved these 6 inches this way, and so I had to cut the track and place everything back 6 inches back, because I want as much room as possible, so when I add the next set of switches, will be good. And I'll show you what I mean here. This is what my future plans are, but here we go, and I'll be right back. Alright, so let's take a look at my headache of a debacle here. I guess I might be overthinking this or being tired, but anyway, so we were back to where we originally started. Main 2, or main 1 and main 2. So now I can come across main 2 or main 1 and go into main 2. But once I do that, I need a way to get back onto main 1 from main 2 without backing the whole entire train up. That's the whole idea of doing this, which I can do. So let's say I switch off from main 1, go on to main 2, I come around, come back around, and I can, with this design I have here, I can get back on the main 1 right away, or swing around and come back on the main 2. So these are the 2 new switches I wanted to install. And as you can see, that lines up with main number 1 right there. So here's my debacle. So if I put it this way, the problem is that the way I created this right hand turn, it's too tight. It's just the geometry would never work. So my idea of putting a right hand switch in instead of a left hand switch is not working out too well. So I just wanted to show you guys, not everything you plan comes out or pans out. You have to go to plan B, plan C, or whatever you need to do to make things work. The reason why I put the right hand switch in is because if I put the left hand switch, as you come in, it creates an S curve if you're going this way. So in this case, if I do put this left-hand switch in, it will straighten out the geometry better to match up to main 1 or main number 2. So you gotta take the lesser of the two evils here. Do I really want to screw around with this bad geometry, or just deal with switching off an S-type curve off of main 2? Well, I'm thinking I'm going to go back to the left-hand curve or left-hand switch and deal with the S curve, since I'm only going to be switching out 4 or 5 cars at a time. Alright, so that's probably what I'm going to do. And that would free up a right-hand switch that I need to go into the refrigeration facility over there. So that would free up a switch for that. Alright, so let me play around with this, because I'm not liking my idea of going to a right-hand switch. It's just not working out. It'll never work out. Alright guys, I'm probably going to go back to the left-hand switch. It'll probably look a lot better anyway. And just deal with the S-curve into the yard. Alright, I'll be right back and I'll show you guys what I came up with. Okay, so I think I might have this figured out. So if I put this, and I'm trying to include you guys in my thinking process and how you got to figure things out and what works, what doesn't work, and 2 things that don't work, but you take the lesser of the one that might not work, that will work better. But at any rate, so I'm thinking, and just hear me out here. So we're coming through with an 054, and if I throw the switch, it's going to create an S curve. But these are 0100 switches. Should I really be worried about making an S curve with an 0100 radius switch? Would it really matter that much? I'm thinking it'd be okay for switching out short trains and stuff. Because as you see, you come in on a right, it curves to the right, but if I switch it, it'll curve to the left, but it's 0100. But anyway, you can see the geometry matches a whole lot better by doing it this way. I would have never made the other way work. And so I can create my opposite crossover here, thus creating another S curve. But once again, at least I'm going from 072 to 0100, so I'm thinking the train should be okay going through that. And eventually that's going to be 080 in there anyway. And then, so my crossover, it's the opposite way over here. My entry to the Cargill facility will be here. So this should work out a whole lot nicer. And I know what you're saying, yeah, you just got yourself an extra right-hand switch. Why aren't you putting it over there for your warehouse facility, for your refrigerator cars? Well, I'll just buy another one, because I want to finish up what I have here first. There's no sense tearing that apart and having 2 different sections of the track apart, or the layout apart. So my advice is work on one section of the layout at a time. Don't tear the whole thing apart. So I will just buy another right-hand switch, and that'll still be a weekend 3 video. So it looks like there's going to be a weekend 3 video, because there's some gauges I want to install and show you guys anyway. So yeah, I'll just make another video update. But at any rate, let's get this part of it done, and I'll show the progress as I go along. Okay, everybody, we're back. We're now at the 4 hour mark on weekend number 2. And as we last left off, there was a debacle. I wasn't sure what I was doing, and I'm so glad that I went back to the other idea that I was discussing on the camcorder or camera of taking that right switch back out and putting the left one in, even though it creates a small or a sort of like an S curve here. So the flow is much more better as far as the geometry and the works of the track work. If I had left it with the other idea, it would have been so horrible, and it just would have been terrible as far as the geometry and the trains running through. I think this flows a lot better. So I'm happy. I think I made the right decision. So as you can see, I'm still in the works of needing to do other things, but yeah, I'm going to go ahead and I wanted to go ahead and show you guys what I've done. I've already tested, meter tested everything. I always do. That's something I always do. Every time I put a switch in, I meter test it to make sure, at least there's electricity there. So it's very important that you do that. You don't want to get 4 or 5 switches installed and then turn the power on and the train stops through it, and then you're wondering why. That's not the time to figure out you did something wrong somewhere, especially when you installed that many switches and you have to go back through them all. Not me. Every time I install a switch, I test it. At any rate, so as I last left off, so since I went from a right to a left, that gave me an extra right hand switch, which I'm going to use, and I'm going to put a siding in here where all this junk is laying, all this trash and tools and everything else, but there will be a siding to go in here, which will be a Cargill transfer station, a corn syrup transfer station. And I just happened to run into photos on the internet of Cargill transfer corn syrup stations, so those really existed. And yeah, I'm slurring my words because I'm tired. My brain's fried, I'm fried. Matter of fact, I think it's time for me to grab something to eat for lunch anyway, so I can rest a little bit and refresh. But there's still going to be a weekend number 3 because I'm still short a switch to put over here in front of my refrigerated warehouse. Plus, I want to figure out a way if there's a way to go from main 1 to main 2 on this side of the layout for my switcher. So we'll figure all that out. And I got some volt gauges I got to install. I'll probably hold off until weekend number 3 for that. I'll show you guys those updates. Alright, so that being said, lunchtime, time to move on. I'll finish up the yard siding and the main, number 1 main. And then I can at least reballast all of this, and we'll see how that looks. Alright, catch you guys here in a few. Okay, so we're back after eating dinner and then taking a 2-hour nap. So, now that it's after nap time, I went ahead and did some more work, and I'll show you guys what I did here. So I'm liking how everything is flowing together now. It looks a lot better than what I was originally going to do. So the change that I made here, as you guys seen in the first video, I had a right hand curve in here, And it was sort of like the train was coming in and going back out. And as you've seen earlier in this video, nothing was going to match up geometry-wise anyway. So, this is what I came up with. And so this is great. I'm happy with what I have here. So we'll recap what I did here. So I went back to the left-hand switch, which goes across the road, and as you can see, I put a nice new straighter section in there. So there's a nice flow coming in off of main 2 into the yard. And then, of course, we have a crossover from main 1 to main 2. So if I want to bring in the train this way, I need to get back out onto main 1, which I can do right there. Same thing. If I got a train running, and let's go in the opposite direction, and I'm coming this way, and I want to jump onto main 1, I can do so right there. Come back around and get back on main 2 through these set of switches. Now, originally I was going to put a Ross crossover switch that I saw on GFW Trains video when they shot a video of the Crossed Anchors Railroad's traveling car. And I quickly changed my mind after seeing the price was like a little over $400, plus I had 4.5-inch centers. I wasn't sure about the wiring aspect of it. For that amount of money, I wasn't sure if it was going to work for me on this layout. So I did it this way instead. So now I can cross over from main 1 or 2 in any direction on the side of the layout now. And this is great. As you see, I added a right-hand switch that I took from over there. And this is going to be my Cargill corn syrup transfer facility, which I'll build a scratch build later on. And so right now, we're ready for testing, but I'm not going to do it quite yet because it's like 9 o'clock as we speak, I believe. Let me look at the time. Nope, 10. It's actually 10 at night as I'm talking to you guys right now. And so that's going to be a morning project. We'll run some trains across here, make sure it takes a load, make sure the crossovers work. And the biggest thing about this is that since I have 2 separate mains here, main 1 and main 2, each one is powered by a separate Lionel brick, which means you better have these in phase when you cross your locomotive over from main 1 to main 2 and on either direction. So that's why I double check, triple check with my meter, making sure the phasing is correct, because I don't want to short my locomotive out, during testing. I know you guys are going to ask me, Sean, are you using any kind of program to do your layout planning? And the answer to that is no. I do all this out of my head, thinking about it, imagination, playing around with it. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. The programs are great for a beginner who wants to start out, like using Fast Track, for example, or even Tubular Track. And I believe I never used the program, but I'm going to assume, and you know what that means, but I'm going to assume these programs are loaded with templates of the different size of the Fast Track that's available in switches. So if I wanted to run a certain design, it's going to tell me, okay, you need a 12-foot section or 12-inch section of Fast Track here, you need a 6-inch section of Fast Track there, you need a 042 curve over there. If you want this kind of stuff, you want to run these size trains, you're going to run a 072 curve there. So it pretty much uses I'm assuming the available track that's out there as templates. With Gargraves and Atlaso and Ross Track, it's all pretty much a custom build. It's like a real railroad. You bring the track in and you cut it the size and the length that you need it and for the area that you're going to use it in. That's what the real railroads did, or do, still do. They just have machines that lay it for them. But at any rate, so that's what I do. I play with it, and I look at it, and I'm like, okay, I think that'll work there, but I'm not 100% sure. And I'll play with it a little bit. So, no, I'm not using a program. I'm actually using the Conahey Rail brain. So, at any rate, so hopefully that answers those questions. Okay, we're back. We're going to do some testing here. We've already tested the yard, so we know the yard works according to our first video. Now I want to make sure that these crossovers work and that siding works. And then we can do some ballasting. Alright, so I'll probably save the ballasting part of it for weekend number 3. I'm getting really tied up with other things here, but at any rate, let's start this thing up here. Alright, let's see what happens. Alright, we'll switch throw the switch here. Now here's where it's really important to make sure that I have the electric or AC electric phase correctly, because the track that the locomotive is on one brick and the other brick is on this track, main number 1. So the locomotive is on main 2, the track I'm switching to is main 1, and they're on 2 separate bricks. So if it's incorrect, it will short and throw a breaker, and that's not what I really want to happen. But so I'm crossing 2 power bricks right now. Looking good. Alright, so we successfully crossed 2 separate power bricks, going from main 2 to main 1. Alright, so let's go forward here. And if you're not familiar with electric or handcrafting things, do not go with Gargray's track if you're just a beginner. You know, start out with Fast Track or something like that, and buy a couple pieces of Gargray's and mess around with it. But it's not as simple as just hooking it all together and you can run your train. They were in the wrong direction. Alright, so here we go. Okay. Now I'm using my GP30 because it's a lot more forgiving than my 12-axle locomotives as far as testing. Alright, we're going to throw this switch. Again, I'm hands-on. I like being hands-on. I like, you know, being hands-on my layout. So, once again, we're going to cross from main 1, which is on 1 brick, to main 2, which is a separate brick. And we are now crossing 2 bricks at the same time, so we're looking good. So that means we're phased correctly, didn't short out. Okay. Now to check the siding. Alright, flip the switch. Flip the siding switch. And we'll check the siding. Alright. So I'm pretty happy with that. And like I said, I'm going to leave the ballasting for weekend number 3. So there will be a weekend number 3 update video. And by that time, everything should be ballasted. I'll show. I might even have my right hand switch in time to do crystal ice. I can show you that update. And then I got some AC volt gauges I want to install. I installed some indicator lights, so I can show you guys that in the next video. And I'm doing all this because I want to come out with better switching videos, because I noticed you guys really like them. The viewers like them a lot. I know O-gauge, not a lot of O-gaugers like to switch, but I have my layout set up that I can either switch or just run in circles. My original plan was to, update the diameter curves from 072 on the outside to 080, and then move the 072 to the inside, replacing 054. But it would still only provide the same running in circles videos that you guys normally see. Wouldn't really see much of an update there. So I think investing into the switches was for right now is a better plan, and then save money later on to do the update to the curves, because sometimes track's expensive. Track's your biggest expense, no matter what scale it is, it seems like. So track is not cheap. For a 37-inch long piece of Gargrace track, you're at $10 a piece. So you buy 10 pieces, that's $100. So it doesn't take long to add up big figures just in track. I mean, granted, it's 3 feet long, but still, if you have a big layout like this, and I don't consider myself a big layout, but larger than your normal 4x8, I guess you could say. So, alright, I'll catch you guys for weekend number 3, and stay tuned. Keep an eye out for weekend number 3 video. Thanks a lot. Bye.